So then we will move on to item B. Janice?
Okay. Mayor Stone. This item B, the litigation committee, I voted no on the idea of the litigation committee, and I think this is the worst idea that we've ever had brought towards us. I'm Mayor Stone and Mayor Pro Tem Tim. We voted to take the budget process out of committee in order for everybody to have the opportunity to participate. And I thought that was a good idea. I'm one to believe that everybody should have their voice, have an opportunity to be heard. In this case, we're doing the exact opposite. We're taking probably the most vital decision-making that we have because it involves so much money, and we're putting it into committees. Now, our city attorney kind of alluded to the fact that we have some problems with confidentiality in closed session. And I venture to say that that has not been the case. There has not been a problem with confidentiality in closed session. And the idea is by the formation of this committee, we have more confidentiality. So that seems to be a ridiculous idea. What Mr. Markmen talked about, I think, because I think he got some of the facts wrong, there was a social media post about some litigation involving the city, and I did post an opinion, and I didn't mention names that two of the people that were that were being sued were people that had lied about me. That's my First Amendment right. I don't think that jeopardized the city in any way at all. So as far as I'm concerned, that was the extent of that, and that certainly shouldn't have any impact whatsoever as far as my ability to keep a confidence in closed session. I do want to remind the council, although maybe they don't even know this, that I was a CPA for 11 years, working with some of the richest people in Southern California. I worked for 2 years as a senior tax consultant with Ernst & Young, and I had access to all of their tax files, and they did a background investigation on me, and there was not a problem with confidentiality in any of the 11 years that I worked intimately with people's finances. 18 years as a public school teacher. Again, I worked with students in very delicate situations with their families, and I worked on student study team pretty much every year I was a teacher because I liked working with students that had needed special accommodations because of learning disabilities, and that involved confidential information. And again, in those 18 years, nobody ever suggested that I was indiscreet with my information. So I'm really offended by the fact that this has gone brought before based on some allegation that I have disclosed confidential information. Now, I did disclose the discussions that occurred in closed session, but because those items had nothing to do with the agenda, which was an evaluation of a city manager, those aren't protected by confidentiality, the confidentiality rules of the Brown Act. So I categorically state that this is not a good idea, and I would like to move that we do not vote on this, that we do not appoint anybody to this council, that we keep our closed sessions in full participation of everybody that has been elected and appointed so that we can make the best decisions possible.
Is there a second on her motion? Please, folks, can you please? Thank you. Do I have a second on her motion? Okay, seeing none, we will now. How do we do that, Jim?
I'd like to respond to some of what we just said. Notwithstanding the presence of Janice's usual fan club here, it doesn't matter to me. This evening, you just saw a classic example why no lawyer would ever take this validation action to the full council with Janice Elliott present and discuss strengths, weaknesses, or strategies on the case, but she just got through 5 minutes ago urging people who wanted to oppose that litigation jump into the case and oppose the project by opposing that validation action to do so. And she announced the date, the last date you had to do so, and the people who were trying to organize it. It doesn't sound like somebody wearing our team's colors. I'll say a few other things, too.
Excuse me. They elected me. My team is the people that elected me.
Right now, please.
Excuse me. I am not part of this team. The people elected me.
Okay, let me finish it. So this is where we are. Here's a person that no lawyer would go into a confidential situation where she's on the other side of litigation in a group of people opposing the city, sitting in the courtroom in the group of people opposing in another lawsuit. The first time I sent her an email response to opinion request, the thing was posted online within an hour. So this is not a person, and I'm always open-minded to people figuring this out. She just said that a personnel section, an evaluation in a closed session, is not confidential. Of course it's confidential. People have a right of privacy if they're being evaluated in a personnel session.
That is not what I said.
Well,
I didn't reveal anything from an evaluation. I did not reveal anything about anyone's evaluation.
I can talk over you, too. I can talk over you.
Well, I just don't like hearing lies. I'm sorry.
Hey. Let's stop this right now.
Please, in the audience, you need to respect the speakers, and if you don't respect the speakers, I'll have you removed from the city council chambers. So please let the speakers talk, and you'll have your time during public comment at the end of the meeting, or if you've already spoken, but please allow people to speak. Thank you.
Excuse me, Marjorie. It's not your turn to talk. Thank you. You've had your time. Go ahead, Mr. Markmen.
So to sum it all up, if the council, who has been witness to all of this, and we had a whole evening of these discussions, is comfortable that we could have a closed session on litigation where we discussed our strategies, even on cases where one of the council members is definitely opposed to the action and on the other side of the case, all you have to do is not establish this committee. The purpose of this committee is to allow attorney-client privilege to live through the litigation process. And something we recommended that we felt was justified based on the record to date. If you don't feel so, you don't have to agree.
Thank you, Mr. Markmen. All right, so there was a new motion put on the floor. It was not second, so
move to approve consent item B.
Okay, let's vote.
Second.
Oh, you want to second it?
Second.